This is the Lekker Rugby Pod with Harry Jones and MBFL, brought to you by Sit and Car.
It's the Lekker Rugby Pod, episode 38. Harry is here on his travels. He went from Dublin to Edinburgh and is in London at the moment. So before we start, hello, welcome back, Harry.
Yeah, how's it, MB? I'm hitting all the capitals of the British Isles and Ireland. In a way, it makes me think about the British and Irish Lions. You know, we're way ahead of that. But, you know, thankfully, England saved the Lions tour this weekend by losing to Australia and putting the tour back on proper standing.
I wanted to talk to you about the Scotland-South Africa game, like I just said. But I first want to say thanks to Sit and Car for making this video possible. Remember, coming weekend, there's England versus Africa. There's another competition running on their Facebook page. If you guess the score, you can win R1,000. And this Thursday, we'll be announcing the winner. If there is anyone that came close or close enough to the score, so watch out for that. So, Harry, let's just talk about this Scotland-South Africa game. You started sending me some videos on Sunday morning, and I just freaking loved them. That black and white one with the Ravens, whatever you want to call them in Scotland, cooing or cawing, whatever the word is, at exactly the right time. It was like a movie, man.
What's funny is I ran into so many people at Murrayfield, either on the way in the trams, because you're squeezed together and you can really talk, or on the way in, and people were saying to me, "Hey, Harry Jones, Harry Boldy, whatever." And they would go over, and one guy said, "I'm literally on the third video. I'm still watching it. Like, I'm not ready to talk to you because I'm still watching the third video." And I said, "Hey, I'll tell you how it ends. It's about existentialism and Adam Smith." And he goes, "Oh man, I love it." Like, Bok fans are so diverse. They're from every walk of life. There's such a new part of Bok fans, you know, the young. And, you know, even going back to 2018, when I would go to Bok tests, you know, it was different. It was still very much the well-heeled package tour group, business guys, mostly Afrikaans, but also English from Durban, South Africa. But they were coming in these big, you know, groups, and they're 45, 50, 60 years old. Not anymore, man. It's you can see everyone from every tribe, every creed. It's great. People having a lot of fun. And the difference between Springbok fans now and the fans that we're running into, the Irish are pretty excitable and fun, but compared to the Scottish, the English, the Welsh, very sober, very kind of quiet. Springbok fans are a lot of fun. And maybe it's because we're winning, and maybe it's because we're feeling our oats and all that. But long may it go, because it's really fun to go to a stadium like Murrayfield and see, I don't know, 10,000, 15,000 South African fans. It was a different character, a different vibe than when I went to see Scotland play England.
I could hear it in the anthems. I mean, there was surprisingly a loud rendition of the anthems. What did it feel like when you were there?
Yeah, depending on what pocket you were in, I was in a pretty good place, but just below the box, coaching box. And whatever reason, I think those were probably the season ticket holders, is what I imagine. It was more the Scottish section, but looking over 2 or 3 over, there were some sections that were majority green and gold. We didn't have a singer to key off of, so it was a little bit like piped in music that we had to go with. But my little section, about, I don't know, 15 of us, we did our best. We linked arms, we formed a human scrum. And then the rest of the game, we annoyed everyone else around us by jumping across and high-fiving the 4 tries and the 1 disallowed.
You told me last night when we were talking right after the game, you were assaulted by an old Scottish gentleman with a cane.
There's no winning in that. It's like fighting a one-armed man. Like, if you win, you look like a bully, and if you lose, you're the laughing stock. So no, I didn't mess with him. All I did was I pantomimed how many rows ahead of me were also up, and then everyone started laughing and said, "Yeah, I think he's got you on that one, old man." I'll sit down when they sit down, basically. The problem for him is it was right in front of him, and so I blocked out the entire view. Another guy behind me was, you know, saying, sit down. And then I just turned around and then I thought, I'm never going to sit down now, because it was during the Eben fight. I wanted to see it. And he said, "Please." and then I said, I asked him rhetorically, I go, "Well, why did you come? I mean, if you wanted to watch it perfectly, just stay home." And he's like, "Okay." And he stood up, and then we became friends at the end. So, yeah, there's a lot of politics that's involved in watching a game, when to stand up, when to sit down. I got to tell you right now, one of my biggest pet peeves is you go to a match and 25% of the people are getting up and going and coming back during these narrow minutes that we have in rugby. And you start to wonder, why on earth are you like, why are you here? It's bizarre to me that you spend a third of your match watching, going back and coming back. You know, what did I miss? You missed 2 tries while you were taking a leak, getting your seventh beer. There's plenty of time before and after, and even in halftime. So I never understood that. But no, it was actually a pretty cool place to watch a rugby match. It's set up for rugby. It's nothing else. So there's not like a big track around to keep you far away. The music is, I would say, one of the best. They're not stuck in the 70s. They're not trying to be a DJ at a club. It's proper rugby music. Good bands that play before, like, you know, recognizable alternative rock bands. I have a great video of Rassi getting down on one knee before the game and stretching to this music of a very good band. And I was imagining Rassi probably likes them. He's enjoying this. He did his typical prowling where he gets to the middle of the field and just stares at all the Scottish moves. And, you know, apparently it worked a little bit because there was no try scored.
Yeah, you have to just wrap that in. We mentioned the fight. Even we won the fight, I think. We also won the game, but I definitely think we won the fight. But the interesting thing I saw on Twitter today was people mentioning the Afrikaans family singing the Scottish anthems, and they realized afterwards it's Piers Koeman's family. Now, Piers Koeman was instrumental in those fights. He sort of took it to heart, looks like. Even Duan van der Merwe, I often wonder what it must be like for someone like Piers Koeman or Duan van der Merwe who could have, would have, should have played for the Springboks, and now they end up playing for Scotland. I don't end up in a derogatory sense. I'm just saying that life took them there. I wonder what it feels like standing there and the anthems are being sung. And I saw Piers Koeman didn't sing this. No, I'm sorry, he did sing the anthem. Who didn't sing the anthem was Tony Brown. He didn't sing our anthem, but I can understand that. I just wondered how that feels sometimes, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting in this world we live in where you know, humans forever have migrated and moved around, so we're not that different. Um, I just think when you're getting into partisanship and what moves your heart, what makes you cry, what makes you feel strong, whatever, anthem times, it can evoke a lot of emotions. I'm sure it is a conflict around the stadium in Murrayfield. Duhan is huge. There's just as many pictures of Duhan as there is of Finn. They share kind of equal billing on being the sex symbol or the marketable face or whatever. I mean, he's huge in the marketing around Scottish Rugby Union. Pierre is very much loved as a folk hero. He's more like the classic, you know, the people's choice. You know, he started a whiskey company. I do think that Skuman is more into the lifestyle there, but there's lots of other South Africans. Dylan Richardson for the Sharks was playing hooker. There's been a lot of crossover. Generally speaking, Scottish people and Scotland rugby is very welcoming of South Africans and wants more. So I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. I just think that there are moments in every game we play against Scotland, like when Duan has the ball, every South African fan, or at least I'll just say for me, but everyone around me as well, we just want to kill him, like want to smash him, like like an extra. We want to like put his face in the ground and make him eat some I don't know why, okay, but we just want to. And I don't always feel that with some players, but I just think with Duan I do. And then in general, I would say Tony Brown, just from being around him a little bit this time. He's a fun guy. I think he comes off differently than he actually is. He's got a sly sense of humor. I was able to chat with him and Jakob Piper a little bit, and they're funny guys. And the minute Rassi leaves the coaching box, everything gets crazy. It's like when the teacher leaves the room at school. Then the whole dynamic changes, right? Because you don't have to worry about the principal, the woodworking teacher going to give you cuts. It's more like, okay, now we can go crazy. And Tony Brown is sort of the ringleader. I think he's the guy that eggs people on, and you know, it's a whole operation. Two things I saw at the ground that you can never get on TV. One is what goes on in the coaching box from an hour before to an hour later. There's a couple of analysts there that stay for a long time, and they're still poring over every single engagement. I asked one guy, "What are you doing exactly?" Because it was 30 minutes after the game, and he was still, you know, laptoping, and he was charting and mapping, because they even talk about it that night, he said, and even the next morning, he has to be ready to rip in, because Rossi might ask him a question, or Tony might ask him a question that he's never even ready for. So they don't give him the same things every time. The second thing I saw was the breakdown, even from the Scottish, on how many lorries, trucks, vans it takes to take away all the practice equipment and training equipment away from the grounds. You would think that they would have it keep it there at Murrayfield, but they don't. What a massive operation a rugby match is nowadays when you're playing tier 1 rugby, and it's for all the high stakes. They cared very much about, this is the analog of what I was talking about all year. We have to learn to play favorites, because every single country we go to, every place we play, every team we up against gives us their best. They're dirtiest, they're thuggiest, they're smartest, they're cleverest, they run harder. They'll resort to whatever they got to resort to try to get the win, because if they do get the win, it kind of makes their season. In a way, it's like, okay, we beat England, we beat the Boks. Not only does that save your season if you're a coach, maybe, but as a player, you get to say that was historic, just like what Australia just did to England. Flip it around. Everyone's England. Everyone's, what the All Blacks used to be. So I think escaping from that kind of setup is, I wouldn't bitch too much about, I didn't see this, and we didn't score 7 tries, and I wanted to post a record score, and I think that's hard against Scotland because we've had some big wins over them. But my point was, if you say before the match, Harry, they will score 4 tries, and then Scotland will score none, I would think, oh, that's probably about a 33-9 game. That's what I predicted, and that's what I wanted. I wanted a proper beatdown, and we didn't get that because there was a moment in the game where we should have, and we didn't. We got the card advantage, and then they scored more points during the card than we did.
It's going back to that, making the season comment that you made when you beat the Boks. No other team is more evident of that, or is more evidence of that than Ireland. They've coasted on that victories for 4 months now, and they were brought back to earth with a thump on Friday night, weren't they? Yeah,
so I was at Dublin, and interesting for 2 Celtic cities with a lot of genetic and historic roots. The Picts, P-I-C-T, of Scotland went over to Ireland, became the Irish, and then the ones that stayed, turned into the modern Scottish. But there's not a iota of difference between the DNA of someone from Ulster and someone from Glasgow. I mean, they're pretty much identical. So you would think the 2 cities, Edinburgh is the city that Paris should have been, they say, and Dublin, the sort of river city that was pillaged by the Vikings. You would think they'd be very similar, but Dublin's such a party city. Everyone's on the jaw all the time. Every street just got a pub and a pub and a pub and a pub. Scotland's a lot more like dignified and serious, darker colors, stone everywhere. It's the whole thing is a gym, I call it, because you're just climbing stairs or going downstairs all the time. I mean, serious ones. Like you just let's go get a coffee. It's like you're going to climb the Drakensberg and come back. So you have to be ready, all the time. It's quite considerably colder and more, it's more towards the Nordic lands. But Dublin was like set up to punish the All Blacks. Walking down the streets, they had so many signs that said, "Revenge is a dish served best served cold, all green." Every time Rico Ioane touched the ball in practice, just getting ready, he was booed loudly. No one there was used to losing. It's like 20 games in a row they won in the Viva. The tickets have gone much higher, so it's now more of a corporate looking crowd, and it's lads, and they got nice overcoats, and they've got fancy leather boots, and it's not just like the common folk anymore. And so in a way they were almost entitled and ready to see once again their foes punished, and they just did not turn out that way at all. Irish play pretty rugby. Mike Catt is gone now. He was their attack coach, and it showed they were disjointed. They didn't have a regimented attack style. They were throwing longer passes instead of short ones in the rain, which is not a good idea. It just seemed the All Blacks were more physical, more rugged, tougher, plenty up for the fight. I like the All Blacks when they're like this. I like the All Blacks when they're kind of playing the bad guy and like came in and ruined everything, made them quiet, made the Irish leave early, made them sad. And then they walked around and they pretended to be humble, but you could tell it was really driving them crazy that the Irish were talking this noise, that they don't believe the Irish belong in the top two. New Zealand is factual enough and realistic enough to know that they're not the number one right now, but they reject the idea that they're behind Ireland. And I think they wanted to prove that it was not a fluke in the quarterfinal, that this is the real balance of power. Also, Ireland, if their big secret was down by a bit, that they were going to bring on the likes of Peter O'Mahony, who's got more gray hair than you and I put together, Ian Henderson, who looks like he cannot get to third or fourth gear anymore, Cian Healy, who he looked old when he was young, but now he just looks like a bouncer that had to be fired because he couldn't fight anymore. And then you have youngsters, this whole Crowley Frawley thing. Both of them are ill at ease. It's a little bit like the English situation where you don't know who the boss is. And so in a way, both fly-offs play badly. So I left Dublin feeling a bit underwhelmed. But I also thought that the fact that both those teams are obsessed with each other, it made the game hard because it's a bit wet. Everyone's worked each other out. They've hyper-studied each other for 8-9 years now since the Chicago Soldier Field debacle, which was the first time they beat them. From that point on, they've been very intensely studying each other's moves. And and what happens is when coaches have that much time and they have that much obsession, sometimes the game is not very fun. And also the players were in no mood to be pretty or like have exciting All Black rugby. They just wanted to show them that it's like an older brother thing. They wanted to put them back in their place.
The other surprise of the weekend, I'm saying surprise because I thought Ireland was going to win that one, but the other major surprise was Australia actually putting off a victory against England at Twickenham. And what a game that was. I mean, first I want to ask you, I'm not an Australia supporter. I always used to say Australia would be the last team I would support, and I ended up supporting Australia on Saturday. Don't know what's wrong with me. But the point is, do you think Australia is now really back, or was it a flash in the pan?
No, I mean, we could overread it. But they not only were they the underdogs, they were massive underdogs. It wasn't just Ben Young saying, don't waste my time, Australia. Most of the press and most of the players were talking about a beatdown. They were looking forward to it after that tough loss to the All Blacks. Australia was terrible in the Rugby Championship in terms of actual results, in terms of points scored versus points conceded. They barely scored. They did not score good tries. Most of the tries were in junk time, garbage time. They were clearly the wooden spoon. They were far behind Argentina. Let's put it that way. So when you come in and you have a conception of where the Six Nations sits, almost like in a Harry Index. If the Six Nations were sort of the same latitude as the Rugby Championship, you'd say, oh, so Australia is like Wales or Italy. So that's where, England should be more like, at All Blacks level. And so for that to happen, in fact, the whole weekend go completely south, where every single thing, the balance of power looks completely different. I thought it was a shockwave. It's one of the greatest wins in Australian rugby history. There were several performances on offer that were some of the best ever. Angus Bell played one of the best games of a prop ever. He beat 9 defenders. He played 72 minutes. There were people like Joseph Suali'i, who was it's his first rugby union professional game ever. He never played even one club game. Put that into a South African context. I don't know what that would be like, but just imagine that, I don't know, Fassi had never played for the Sharks, Not even one time. Never played. Never played for a Curry Cup, and then he comes on, and then we're like in 2018, and we beat the All Blacks with Fassi being one of the key members. It's stupid. I mean, if you write that story for a movie, they go, no, it's not right. You're going too far. Len Ikita with that backflip, just like Dwayne Vermeulen against Wales in 2015 quarterfinal to set Max Jorgensen free. Other guys that stepped up, I think, a lot were Tom Wright, who's someone we remember from Super Rugby being very flaky and making lots of mistakes. He's cut the mistakes out of his game, and for about a year now, he's been one of their best players. So you have signs of life. Here's the problem. Australia doesn't have what we have, which is 3 packs. If a couple of people go down, they're back in serious trouble. But the beginnings of a Joe Schmidt plan are coming together. And let's just think of Joe Schmidt as a scientist. I mean, he's an academician. He was a teacher for ages. So he used the Rugby Championship, no apologies. He used it as an experiment to see what he had at home, because he didn't want to go parachute people back from Japan or the French leagues. The team that beat England had 0 people from overseas. It was 23 guys from Super Rugby. So that was his first point, is he wanted to see if he could work with them. Second, he found guys like Jeremy Williams that no one knew about. It's a lock, and he scored that amazing try in the corner. He worked with some players to make them better, like Nick Frost. He realized this is a big guy, but he has no physicality, so I'll make you more physical. And then he centered his efforts around a leader, Harry Wilson, that Eddie Jones didn't even take as one of the 34 players that he thought was okay to the World Cup. Len Ikitau, the leader of defense. Eddie Jones didn't even take him as one of the top 34 players to the World Cup. The heroes, Tom Wright, Len Ikitau, Harry Wilson, none of them were rated okay by Eddie Jones. So this is a Joe Schmidt team now. I think they turned the corner on talking about the World Cup. World Cup's gone. It's finished. You just beat England and Twickenham. And that allows him, it gives him space. It gives him breathing room. No matter what happens in the rest of the tour, they should beat Wales, and it might beat Scotland, but probably not Ireland. But that one win, it's how interesting it is with coaching. That one win probably keeps him safe for a good long time.
Last rugby championship team I want to talk about is Argentina, and they must be having the year of their lives. I mean, they beat the Boks, they beat the All Blacks, they beat Australia, they beat Italy now. Who else did they beat? France once. So I mean, this team under Felipe Contoponi is going places.
It is, Argentina's national language is Spanish, and this we know, but I think it's 55% of their lineage is from Italy. And there's actually a lot of crossover between the two countries. Martin Castrogiovanni, Italian prop, was really in Argentina. Sergio Parisa, born in Argentina. Plenty of back and forths. The reason why I mention that is when you beat your dad, when you're able to slay the dragon of where you came from, parentage, it's especially special. A lot of those guys, I mean, even if you think about their names themselves, they're not typically Spanish names. A lot of them are actually Italian sounding inside the Argentina team, and so Petty, that's an Italian name, or Cinti. I mean, these are not Spanish names. So they're going back and they're doing something remarkable. But what I like about what Argentina is doing is cutting out some of the indiscipline. They're focusing on intricate play, keep the ball alive. I think it fits them better. I think in a way, when they tried to get too much down the road of set pieces and so forth, it was good. It took them so far. It took them to like a 6 or 7 out of 10, but it couldn't get them to the 8 or the 9. So I think if they can keep this up with a really amazing number 10, he's pulling the strings. They've got weapons everywhere, and who's to say? Now, they have to play Ireland this weekend. And the problem with playing a team that's been embarrassed at home, and you have all these people calling for a rebuild, and they're sobered up, and nobody's drinking this week. and everyone's lifting a little extra weights, and they wanna move someone, is that could be Argentina, and Ireland plays the kind of game that hurts Argentina. So I'm not really optimistic about this week for them.
Well, you talked about a team that you said lost at home. It's going to be called for a rebuild. That's England. We'll talk about England on Thursday. But let's get to the Springboks now. At last, I mean, people are going to say, "What are you on about?" We want to hear about the Springboks. First thing I want to ask you: we were scratchy, we were rusty. The combinations didn't work. The experiments didn't work. I asked you yesterday, did Rossi get any answers to his question? Did he build any depth here, or we just shown up to not be as deep as we thought we were?
Well, it's kind of weird if you score 4 tries to none and you hold one of the top attacking teams in the world to no tries, for us to be too pessimistic. That being said, I know what you're saying. So let's take those sort of one by one. But I'm just leavening it with the dough of realism, which is you're not supposed to win by more than 17 points that many times on the road. Let's see. It depends on what questions he was asking. Maybe we're asking different questions than Rossi was asking himself. So one thing is, the single biggest change was not the red 20 card, nor was it the go back several phases to check a TMO. These are all, I mean, they're different, but they don't make you change your way of playing. What changes your way of playing right now is the no escorts. And it is that you kick a ball, and then on the way to the ball, before I can smash the catcher, I had to navigate like going through a shopping mall with, old tunnies and their like push carts. And I couldn't get to the guy. That's what everyone developed is slow props and locks, lollygagging around, running, and then like kind of moving around, acting like they were drunk men and running zigzagged lines. So you couldn't get to the catcher and absolutely like smash him, take his soul. You couldn't do it. And then complicating it was that they put them in the air and you can't touch the guy. And there was that spate of red cards from 2016 to 2018 about don't touch the guy in the air, don't touch the guy. So no one does that anymore. And when you do it, you go, oh, I'm in trouble. Everyone knows you're in trouble. So what they said is we don't like the way that that's developed, in that all the guy's got to do is get in the air. He's got all his brothers around him, shepherds, guardians, whatever, bodyguards. And they ran to him in such a cordon way that you couldn't get to him. They wouldn't like that because it's not a continual contest for the ball. So we want to say now that you have a clear path. So if I start running and chasing Canan Moodie, I'm now going to have a much better shot at judging where I am. No one's going to jostle me or bump me, or I'm going to fall into the guy by mistake. I've got clear path. I can time it. I can get my leap on, and I can beat the guy to the ball. Or if I'm in the second chaser group, I'm Sia, I'm Marku, or I'm a big like Peter Steff or Eben, I can also contest, or I might just time it now. Again, no one can save you. I'm going to wait till you land on the ground, and then I'm going to proper smash you. And we've seen so many more smashes this year so far when that has come in. And so I think Rossi did get an answer. I think he got an answer in Canan Moodie and Makazole Mapimpi, in that both ways. If I have to trust someone to go up for the ball and not get beaten in the air, I like Moodie. I like Mapimpi. I like Fassi. If I have someone to chase and I'm going to send my 3 waves, my Iba, my Peter Steff to contest, maybe if it's short, my Sia, my Marku, my Ulrich Low, if it's a land and smash, or I want to actually go up in the air as high as I can. I think he got some. That was a phenomenal result. I don't know what the percentage of times we regained a kick, but it was the single most important attacking structure on the night. It was by far, besides the scrum, the most yielding of attacking structures. So that's the first thing. And I think that's only going to get better. And that particular change in emphasis by World Rugby is a massive, massive win for Springboks. Because we're the best chasing team. We can put the ball exactly where we want it to be. And we have always sent more chasers. We've been denied and thwarted by these shepherding schemes. Ireland does them and New Zealand does them very well. The French don't, which is why in the quarterfinal we beat them, because we could there was no shepherds, there was no escorts. And so we had so many spilled balls. Curtly Arnson goes to the house on one. Next one, Ibn taps back and it goes wide. Jesse grubbers for Cheslin. The other, that's the quickest ball you'll have on the field is to get a ball back from a kick. Damon Delende just running forward with the ball because there was nothing there to stop him. So I think that's the first question we did get. Second one is the depth inside loose trio was not good. Okay, I don't know if they're just going to keep trying Kwacha until they see something different, but I think for most of us intelligent human beings watching the Boks, we know by now that is not going to work. So he got an answer. We don't like the maybe he doesn't like the answer, but it's clear that Kwacha Smith is not a starting 8. He cannot carry from behind the gain line from a stop-start, and he cannot stop Jack Dempsey or someone else that's running in anger. He's not able to do it. He cannot stop Xander Ferguson or Jack Dempsey, Ferguson. They were able to monster him back. And then when he ran with the ball, you always had to wonder, could he be choked and picked up? Because it doesn't matter how strong you are, if you are just light, they pick you up. So that was bad. And that kept them around, I think, a little bit because our loose trio combination was way off. You had sort of shortish Marco, shortish light Kwacha, and then a proper 8 playing 6, but also being asked to do a lot of cover tackles, Eric Lowe. So none of it made sense. I think even then when you started having the bomb squad come on, there was still a little bit of a disjointedness around that. So that didn't work, but we still got a read. We got some information back. The third thing is, could a team play the ruck differently than we've been seeing in the Rugby Championship? And yes, they did. And here's what I will say. I just said Ireland and Scotland should be a lot alike, but they're not always. In this one, they were exactly alike. Irish did not give Ratama any clean ball. It took Roygaard to come on, who's a muscular 9, to solve that problem, and the All Blacks were okay. In our game, Williams probably could have come on a lot earlier if it was a 6-2 bench. The 7-1 bench, even though Jaden was hurt, he couldn't. But Jaden was really beat up, legally and illegally. The Scottish it was like a series that Scotland had in South Africa a few years ago, where this bald-headed guy with a beard, looks like me a little bit, Alex Strokish, and they played every game to spoil the ball and destroy it and kill the ruck, and it kind of worked. We had a hard time beating Scotland in South Africa, and it kind of was a throwback to Scotland knowing that they couldn't, if they played their best game and we played our best game, we'd win. So they thought, what if we play a bad game? I'm playing tennis against you and I never give you any proper shot to hit. It's all spin, it's off speed, it's lobs, and I just play like that. So it was a very ugly, set of circumstances. What overcame it anyway was that the surgical clinicalness of Andre taking that ball early and going straight to the corner, not messing around with 3, put it out 5 meters out. Unbelievable. I know he missed 2 other kicks to touch, but that first one, statement of intent. He gets the ball, kicks it to Makazole Mapimpi, try. It just meant that we're not going to have a lot of rucks. If you're going to play a ruck like that, we're going to have, fewer rucks. Really, same thing. Then we got into a ruck battle for a while and we got stagnated. And it looked very bad. Even during the card, we couldn't get any flow. The bomb squad comes on, and more than that, it was a different idea, which is we're going to be set piece and quick play, but we're not going to get ground down in 12 phases in a row because it was not working. Rory Darge, proper operator. Some good hookers over the ball too. Dylan Richardson's good. So I think that shows us that we have to have different ways of playing inside a game when it's not working. The final thing is, if you're wondering a little bit about midfields and the quality and the difference, to me, there's still this kind of, some people just want to see Lacanio Arm and some want to see Andre the Great because they think he's, the giant and all that. I think you saw the difference, if you're honest, when you watch Andre Esterhuizen's presentment He's in love with the idea of bowling people over and smashing them. But if I take the ball and I smash you 3 or 4 meters back, how is that better than if I go out the back and free someone up around the corner? And it's not. It looks good, and it looks good if you're an 8, but at 12, it makes everything slow down because now you have to resource the ruck. You might get pilfered. Andre's not the best at presentment. And so in a way, it slowed everything down. We were getting much quicker ball from kicks and from out the back and from using the space, go backward to go forward. And I feel like Andre would have to develop that. I know he has the skills, but his mentality is still, oh, look, you're sending Sionu Tupeloto against me. I'm going to smash him. I'm like, true. But then you're on the ground too. And so what happens when you're on the ground, he's on the ground, and 2 other guys come, no one knows what's happening next because it could get reffed, we could get pinged, the ball can slip out, anything can happen. So I do think Tony Brown's offense is dependent on quick ball and doesn't want to be stuck in a 150 ruck game.
I wanted to ask you about this breakdown mayhem that we call it. We saw it in Ireland. You called it a wood chipper. If Ratima put his hands in there, he came away bleeding, or basically. And we saw the same with Jaden Hendricks. He is such a hard time. Didn't have a great game, but I think it was because he was struggling so much against this breakdown. And you mentioned the influence of the Glasgow Warriors, Franco Smith there. They're playing downhill in the breakdown, stepping over the ball. You did it last night. Just explain that to me again. And I wanted to ask you, is this a new thing that we're now seeing? Is it a new trend emerging? Because we saw it in Ireland and from Scotland. And why are they able to do it now? What are they seeing that wasn't there before? Why are they changing things to play this way?
So I do think there's always a forever battle in rugby between the ruck builders and the ruck spoilers. Springboks, there's been times when the Boks have been mostly ruck killers and not so much ruck builders. We're not trying to create attack. So I think there's always that incentive. The incentive's there because if the amount of work it takes to build 14 phases to get from your 22 to my 22 is incredible amount of work. If I can defeat it with one good play, so you have to do 14 perfect plays. I can have 13 kind of okay plays, but my one play is I get over the ball, I kill the ruck. I win because now I get to kick the ball out to touch inside your 22 and have a line out. Like, you did all that work, you're more tired than me, because it's not true that attack is less tiring than defense. In some ways, attack is more tiring because you have to send a cleaner every time, and sometimes 2. And if you get that clean wrong, you get carded, like Sam Cummings did. It might have been Roy Bedard who did it, but so you have the problem of illegality as well. So I think approaching how many rucks you want to have, and in your mind having a number, is things that modern coaches do. Like, I want to have a 75 ruck game against Scotland, but I want to have a 120 ruck game against Argentina. So we play different ways. You don't just go out and play the same way every time. But for sure, you saw in this game quite clearly the danger of going deep into ruck counts. We were much more comfortable when we had set piece, a starter play, 1, 2, 3, see if you had momentum. If not, kick on our own terms and chase. And almost getting into a pattern like that. I know people don't like it sometimes, but it really helps big guys if they know what they're doing. Like, if I know that I have to chase something in 3 plays, I'm going to take a little bit off these 2, and then I'm ready for that one. If you're always throwing me curveballs, it's hard to know where I'm going. On cleaning, when you're 3 or 4 meters away from the breakdown, and I'm running with my mate next to me, so it's me and Elric Lowe, I kind of need to know which one of us is doing inside and which one is doing outside. Otherwise, we're going to be all, looking at each other. We'll be hesitant. So I think all these things come with cohesiveness. And so I do think that it's important when we play England, for example, to put guys on the pitch that know each other really well. On the playing downhill part, we had a short pack. We had Oxenche, Bongi, Marco, Quacha, and Franco's Mostert's never been the tallest lock. And so when you put that together as a group, the Scottish were taller, and they're about the same weight, but they were taller. So every engagement becomes a problem. We put our starting team on, we have Peter Steff at blindside, and we have Sia, and we have Visa. We're not going to get physically overpowered. If you throw a guy like Elrich Lowe in kind of early, as well as Archie Sneeman, we start to become, the team where you cannot get your shoulders over my shoulders. Vincent Koch is taller. Typically speaking, Steenekamp looks like a tallish guy when he's in the ruck. And they play big. So I think the Scottish did the right thing by saying we might be able in a street fight to get a upper hand, and I think they kind of did for a while. They did at least for about 30 minutes. And if Hugh Jones hadn't thrown the ball into row 7 twice, who knows?
Yeah, you bumped into a Springbok player that played over the past weekend, and he tried to demonstrate a couple of things. He was quite happy. He thought he had a good game. Just talk to me about that a bit.
Oh yeah. So this morning I'm getting a sausage roll on the way to the train station. I ran into a loose forward that played last night. I won't say who it is because I didn't really get clearance to say that. But he had looked like had been in a war. First, let's just say that. He had the socks and sandals look because you just don't want anything touching you after you've been in a fight. And happy to be done with it, right? And what he was talking with me about was the dynamism that is needed now inside the breakdown. It's not enough now to go to ground, get low enough where no one can really tackle you very well because they'd be high. So you get to ground, and then you have one of your guys next to you, and he puts a foot over, and then you do a kind of quick turn and you place the ball. It's almost like now they have to do 2 moves. They got to do a little half roll, a little shimmy on the ground, try to place the ball the other way. So instead of towards the open side, you go to the blind side where there's going to be less jacklers, and you kind of do a rip move. So instead of the defenders being all rippy, it's almost like the attackers now have to make sure that they don't place predictably. Because if you place predictably, the defending team is taking a big step over, and their foot alone can give your Jaden Hendricks problems. Or you might be in position, if you could read the ref, hey ref, am I good? Can I go? And even if you go and you're wrong, the ref will give you some coaching, like number 9, no, and then you go away. 6, no. And so you've got an ability to slow the ball. And so the name of the game now is to present dynamically with that little extra half roll, not the full roll, because you get penalized for that. Half roll, try to make it look like you're getting position, and then violently place it. Sometimes let it roll or put it strong, but don't try to place it nice and easy because you'll get snaffled. Or there's going to be a boot to the ball, or there's going to be a cynical hand that scoops it back. Interesting that he was telling me that the adjustments inside the game were really important, and that those were not just coming from they were coming from guys like Tony, Stick, Yaku. Everyone's involved. That coaching team, make no mistake about it, is really happy with each other. They feel like they're doing really well. They like some of their metrics. And what they're really interested in is getting that second and third string really ready to play and knowing who it is not. It's not about finding who it is. They know who it is. It's who is it not? Who does not belong on the field in a pressure game. This is not him telling me this. They did not consider this game to be difficult to win. I'll just tell you that. I'm not getting that from the loose forward guy I talked to. I'm getting that from another source. They did not feel like it was really a problem to win. They wanted to get more out of it. And they always thought the England match with that short turnaround was the one they were the most likely to lose. And that's when they want to make sure they're ready. Now, sitting where they are sitting now, and we're all the experts telling them what to do, we're yelling at the couch, they're feeling pretty good because they have a completely rested set of forwards ready to go. They did get the win. They did score 4 tries to none. And they have a better appreciation now of how to play the no escort chase kick.
I want to ask you something counterintuitive. I know we've spent a long time talking. I need to wrap this up, basically. But I feel that Bok defense under Jerry Flannery is not on the same level as it used to be. And we talked about maybe the Tony Brown game plan, attack-wise, is putting extra strain on the defense. You said if you step up the defense, you attack, your defense can take a step backwards and the other way around. But again, this weekend, it felt like some of those Scottish players were just able to penetrate the Springbok defenses, and it took a scramble from somewhere else to cover that kind of a tackle. Am I right here, or am I imagining things?
I've been thinking about it from a macro point because you've been saying that, and I agree with you, but it was a sense. I didn't have any study behind it, so I've been studying it, and I also liked being at the pitch because I was looking for a specific thing. What I was looking for was almost like on a geopolitical level, like where is the line between East and West? You want to push it, right? I want there to be more problems in your territory, not mine, because that makes me safer. I want to win every single battle here. I want the battles to be in your place, not mine. I think the Nina Albert defense gets behind enemy lines more than the Jerry Flannery does. I think the Flannery does a little more folding. It relies a bit more on reactions post-event. And I thought the Nina Albert defense created events, that it puts you on the back foot more by sending players behind the gain line on purpose, missing tackles sometimes. Both systems miss tackles quite a bit more than some of the other teams, but I don't think we're creating as much mayhem this year. A good benchmark was I was at Marseille watching us shut down Finn Russell, and then I was at Edinburgh watching us shut down Finn Russell. And it's interesting because I thought Finn Russell was more shut down in Marseille. What Finn Russell saw in the Velodrome in that pool game was our aquamarine Miami uniform, whatever we're going to call it. That's all he saw. He didn't see blue. He didn't see dark blue. He couldn't see dark blue because we were flooding the zone around him. No one was touching Finn Russell. They were saying, we're going to make sure everything you see with your sexy passes, you don't see it. You don't even see the one over the top because we have a Lekkebeck lurking around there too. And so Finn Russell turned into a carrier. He turned into a kicker and a carrier. He had to. And he's good. He's good at carrying, but he's not that good. He's not quick enough. I thought we gave him way too much time on the ball to see his skip passes and his 20-meter deliveries. I saw way too many of those. So I would say that if Jacques Nienaber was sitting in his Dublin apartment watching this, and he was doing, if we had his voice on comms, I think that's what he would be thinking about is you're giving him 2 seconds. You never give Finn Russell 2 seconds. And I don't think he played badly. I think Handré Pollard outplayed him. I'll just say that. I thought Handré Pollard had more moments of magic. He had less mistakes, and he directed the game better. And we sometimes forget to give Handré a pat on the back. That was actually a really good display. It wasn't Handré or Finn that didn't do the final tip pass well. Those were other guys. If Finn Russell could, make Hugh Jones a better distributor of the ball, that would have been trouble for us. So I think I'm agreeing with you. And then I think that they probably do know that they need to create more disruption. And I think if we're playing a knockout match or a match that really mattered for everything, like we did against Ireland, there was more disruption going on. I think the Durban game, we showed an ability to shut them down, except for the plays up the middle. I don't know what to do with the plays up the middle. I'm not sure why that's happening. I wonder maybe we're not putting enough people around the ruck as guards. But there is a system fix for that because it's not the players. They didn't turn into bad players.
Right. As much as I'd like to talk to you another hour or so, I have to let you go because I still have to edit and get this out. So thanks for that. I appreciate it. And we'll talk again on Thursday. We're going to have a special episode. We're going to go into a bit of a bigger picture discussion about rugby in general. That's something I'm looking forward to.
Sounds good, man.
This is the Lekker Rugby Pod with Harry Jones and MBA Veld. Brought to you by Sit and Cards.